Hi everyone, I'd like to introduce to you my friend Phil. He was born in England. Hi Phil, can you let us know where you were born?
I was born in the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight is a tiny island off the south coast of the English Channel. It's midway between England and France, but no, not midway, closer to England. We used to travel there by hovercraft or by a big old car ferry, and sometimes the weather was horrible. Huge waves crashing over these little boats that used to take us backwards and forwards from the island. The town I lived in was called Sandown, a little seaside resort. In the winter pretty empty. In the summer, tourists would come from the middle of England and from the, perhaps even up as far as Scotland. They would come down to spend the summer by the beach on this little island, often sitting in chairs watching the rain sweep across the beach and not being able to go out. The English weather is not really that good.
Can you explain us if England is the same than United Kingdom or Great Britain?
I know of England as being England, but it's also part of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is a composite of England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Each one of those countries is really its own boss, its own governor. But bringing them all together, it was called the United Kingdom. Sometimes you hear England being called Britain. In the past it was often called Great Britain because along with France and Spain, England ruled a great deal of the world. That's not true anymore, but that's where the origin of the word Great Britain came from.
Can you give a brief explanations about constitutional monarchy?
England was always independent. Back in hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we had fights continually with people on the continent, for example. France was always the biggest enemy. And at many times, the English monarchy, the kings and the queens and the princes who ruled England, often came from the continent. They would be born over there and they would come over and they would help rule England. In theory, the Queen rules England. In practice, she's more of a figurehead. She's a tourist attraction. People like to come and see the pageantry, they like to see the changing of the guards and all those beautiful costumes. But England is ruled by Parliament, and there are two main houses, the Labour and the Conservative, much the same way as we have Republicans and Democrats here.
Questions to the Prime Minister. David Duquette.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure members across the House will wish to join me in congratulating Alistair Cook on his fantastic service to his cricket.
but they are the main rulers of England, particularly the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is who is closest to the US President.
Tell us about traditions, outfits, and music in England.
Dress, sometimes formal, but more often than not is very casual. When men are going into the office, they'll wear suits, or if it's more in a building area or an engineering area, they'll wear jeans and they'll wear t-shirts on, and in many cases protective helmets or protective footwear of some sort. Very much the same as you see in America. There's not much difference. When I grew up there, the food was always considered to be terrible. The English boiled everything. They boiled cabbage, they boiled potatoes, they boiled toast. Okay, no, they didn't boil toast. But in general, it was pretty bad. But then we discovered Indian restaurants and we discovered Chinese restaurants, and the English took to both those with a great deal of enthusiasm. I grew up eating Indian food and still do living here in Florida. I go to many Indian restaurants here. My wife, who's American, is often surprised at how hot I like my food. That's nothing really to do with me, other than the fact that I've always eaten Indian food ever since I was a boy. There's not really much in the way of traditional English music anymore. Very often England seems to lead the way in techno and in grunge and all kinds of music that's not really my style. If you want to think of some basic music, you could look towards the Scots or the Welsh and their bagpipes, and they do tend to keep some of their traditional songs and their traditional instruments. But I can't think of anything that I would really call traditional in England. For example, when I grew up, it was the era of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. Would you call that traditional English music? I don't think so.
Help! I need somebody. Help! Not just anybody. Help! You know I need someone. Help! When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way.
Thank you for sharing some facts about England. See ya!